What's going on YouTube? So the Chevy Equinox is of course a big deal to the Chevy brand because it competes in one of the most popular segments in the US. And what I'm standing next to today is of course the all-new version. But this is also an all-new trim level for 2025. This is called the Active, which is designed to give you a little bit more of that rugged off-road ability. So let's go ahead and get into this review and see what this new trim is offering. So a fitting place to begin things is here with the exterior design because the Active has a lot of unique elements as compared to the other two trim levels of the Equinox, which are the LT and the RS trim level. Now up here in the front, what you're going to notice is the fact, of course all the models are 2.5 inches wider, but this one really plays into that wide look because what they've done is reshape the grille. You've got this chunkier appearance with these extra pieces out here on the side. Also the grille itself goes underneath of the headlights and down here, just giving it again a wider looking appearance. Now, down in the lower fascia, you've got some gloss black accents running through there. And in terms of our lighting, that's also going to be pushed out to the outside edges. You've got your daytime running light and turn signal indicator across the top. Every single Equinox is going to have projector LED low and high beams. Plus, we also have fog lights, which are an available option on all the trim levels. Now, moving on to our wheels, we do, of course, have a unique wheel for the Active trim level. This is a 17-inch alloy wheel. Again, it's kind of got that boxier design to the spokes, but the most important part about this is the fact of what we have is the tire. This is an all-terrain tire, a real all-terrain tire. This is the only trim level you're going to get that, obviously, and that's going to give you a little bit more capability when you go off the beaten path. Now you've got your matte black plastic wheel surrounds, which are kind of squared off. Gloss black finish here on our Equinox branding. And then in terms of our mirrors, all models are going to have heating and blind spot monitoring for this new generation. We also have the white mirror cap, which goes with the white roof. Mason's going to tell you about that, though, right now.
That's right. So as far as the side design is concerned, one of the main things that you're going to notice, especially here in the Active trim level, is that we do have that white roof option. This is going to be a no-cost option, surprisingly, so you don't have to pay extra for it if you want that two-tone ability here on this trim level. I really like that they are offering that. If you prefer something maybe like a black roof, you can get that on the Equinox, but it's going to be on the RS trim level, so keep that in mind. Now, as far as the overall vehicle length, it's about 183 inches long, which actually places it a little bit longer than a lot of its main rivals like Toyota RAV4. And as far as other design elements, I want to point out you have kind of this floating piece through here that juts up, which is what we first saw on the Chevy Traverse. Now, heading around to the rear design, I have to say this Equinox is definitely a very handsome, compact SUV. We're going to see a lot of the elements that we saw on the Traverse, but brought down into this smaller package. So up top, we have a spoiler integrated, and then we also have a wiper right through here. Our taillights, I'm very impressed by. I like the overall shape of them, and not just the shape, we also have a really nice lighting technology. We're going to have a full LED unit, so that includes your brake light and turn signal indicator, and also your reverse light. So most in the segment are not going to give you a full LED taillight as in all the elements, so I like that premium touch. As we drop down to this lower area, this is going to be finished in a couple different colors. So we have a gray finish through the lower section, the matte black. As far as your tow rating is concerned, it's going to be 800 pounds if you choose the front-wheel drive model, or if you choose the all-wheel drive, it goes up to 1,500 pounds as the maximum. Now, safety is a very important part of any compact SUV, and I'm happy to tell you that for this all-new Equinox, Chevy is not messing around. They're giving you every single system as standard equipment, so that's even going to include things like adaptive cruise control and a few extra goodies that weren't available previously. Now, one of those goodies is not going to be Super Cruise, though, because they're not offering that at all on this gas version of the Equinox, so I'm a little disappointed by that, but overall, the safety department is very strong. Also very strong is the cabin, so let's go ahead and dive into that. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, now let's go ahead and check out the unique interior for the Active trim. Of course, though, before we get inside, take a quick look at the key fob. Typical Chevy affair, you do have a standard smart entry system as well as remote start. And then to get inside the vehicle, you don't have a sensor behind the door handle, so just press that little chrome button there and that will unlock the door. Now, looking at the interior, obviously, if you've seen the previous generation, this is a night and day change in terms of technology as well as the overall luxury appearance. First of all here, though, I do want to talk about your seats because this really is where the kind of luxurious experience begins. The Active gives you a really enhanced seat from the other trim levels. This, as you can tell, has a lot of unique design elements. We've got, first of all, at the top, a kind of suede finish that's going to go on our headrest with Active branding. This is called Maple Sugar. It is a unique color for just the Active trim level. You do have black accents, though, that run down the side in leatherette, and then the suede finish through the center section. Overall, very nice. In terms of adjustments, it is going to be an 8-way power adjusting seat with 2-way lumbar support. We also have the optional memory seats located right there on the door trim. But let's go ahead and get inside. Now when you get inside and shut the door, you do get this cool animation across the displays. But let's go ahead and get into the rest of the cabin materials. Now, compared to even the RS trim level, the Active is going to have the most premium cabin experience with our materials. So over here on our door trim, we've got a leatherette material. This does have a unique texture for active duty. It's hard touch up here on the top, but as we move to the upper dash, this is all going to be finished in a soft touch plastic. More of this leatherette is going to be used generously all through the center section, again with that same texture. And then as we move down to the center section, you have a piano black finish through here. It's not going to be padded along the console here, but it does feel nice and solid. Let's go ahead and fire it up with our standard push button start. Now, after the really enhanced interior, the other gigantic enhancement are your gigantic displays. We'll begin with the individual features here at the gauge cluster. So this is an 11-inch full digital cluster. It's standard on all trims, so of course it is going to be here on the Active as well. And just like some other General Motors products, you can switch between a lot of different unique views by pressing this button here on the steering wheel. I do want to point out, though, that there is no head-up display offered. Some of the competition does give you that option. Now, taking a look at our steering wheel, we have a really nice thick-rimmed steering wheel. Of course, it is leatherette covered. The other cool thing is that steering wheel heating is standard across the entire lineup for 2025. The wheel itself is manual tilt and telescoping. All right, so let's go ahead and get into interior storage next. If I pop open our center console, first of all, you're going to see it is loaded down with donuts. This is car Confections after all, so we like to put donuts in the center console so we can check the volume. In this case, it passes the donut test. Very happy with that. It fits a full dozen donuts inside of this center console. And the good thing about it is that that's not all the storage you have. You have quite a bit more. You got a little spot right here. You have a nice slot right here for your wireless phone charging pad. That is an available option, by the way. Large rubber-lined console area with our USB connections, and then finally we have a gigantic center pass-through. This is one of the best in terms of the class, giving you a lot of different places where you can stick loose objects like your cell phone. That, of course, is because we have an electronic shifter, which is going to be located up here on the column for 2025. You're just going to press down for drive. You do have paddle shifters on the steering wheel. When we go up into reverse, this is what our available 360-degree camera system looks like. You can switch between a lot of different views for hooking up things like the trailer, making sure you don't scrape your rims, etc. We do also have parking sensors on board. And just press the end there for park. You've got an electronic parking brake with brake hold over here on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. Now, the only real button you have here on the console area is going to be your prominent drive mode controller, so you can switch between your different drive modes, and that appears right up there in the main display. Now, Let's kind of take a look down here below at our climate controls next. Happy to see it's a full physical arrangement, so everything here is just done with these buttons. You don't have to go in the touchscreen for any of the main functions. You can adjust your temperature very easily with these knobs. It is a dual zone automatic setup here on the active trim level. We're going to have heated seats standard across the entire Equinox lineup. Ventilated seats are an available option here with the active trim level. And now let's go ahead and talk about the audio system. So with our active, we've got a 6-speaker sound system. You're actually not going to have the option of an upgraded sound system right now as it stands. So 6 speakers is going to be your top end sound quality, and we'll go ahead and give it a sample right now. Yeah, overall sound quality is perfectly fine, although, you know, if you're a big audiophile, I would certainly like to see a Bose offering soon. All right, now let's take a look at our main infotainment screen. So with the previous generation, 8 inches was as big as you could get. This one here is 11.3 inches, and it's now standard across the entire lineup. This display right now is running Android Auto. So I do want to point out or make a specific point of this. Wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay are on this model. The Equinox EV, the electric Equinox, will not have these systems, but the ICE Equinox does have those systems. In terms of the rest of the software experience, this is their latest and greatest. So you have Google Apps built into the system. That means you have Google Assistant, Google Maps, all those things natively inside of the display itself. The other unique element is that a few of your controls are going to be inside of the screen only. So if I press this right here, this is where I'm going to be able to activate things like my fog lights, as well as the rest of my headlights right up there at the top. Rising above here, you do have an auto dimming mirror with our HomeLink remotes. This is a digital camera rear view mirror as well, which is optional. And then finally, as we take a look at the roof here, I'll slide back the cover for the panoramic sunroof. This is an option across all 3 trim levels of the Equinox.
Let's go ahead and dive into the rear seat area of this all-new Equinox. Now, it's a very important part of this vehicle, and I'm happy to tell you, you have really good space figures. Let me just go ahead and start with the legroom. We're looking at about 40 inches of legroom and about 38 inches of headroom. That does mean that actually it's going to be above a lot of your main rivals like Toyota RAV4. Still not quite as big as a Honda CR-V in the back seat, but it's getting quite close. Now, I'm 5'9" for reference, and this seat is adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8", and we are looking at a pretty solid about 7.5 inches of knee room. I can also slide my feet up underneath the seat for additional comfort. I do want to point out, though, these rear seats do not recline any further than this right here. So do be aware of that. It's just going to be kind of a fixed position seat, although I do find them to be decently comfortable. We do also have a fold-down armrest with 2 cup holders inside. And then if we look at the center section, you'll notice that I already have them on. These are your heated rear seats. That's an available option here on the Active and RS trim levels, so I'm happy to see that. Some of the rivals do not offer that. We also have vents down at the bottom and 2 USB-C ports. So pretty good feature set, that's for sure. Assist grip, LED lighting, and if you turn over to the door trim itself, it's going to be made of the same materials as the front. So you have a mixture of nice and not so nice materials. So you have this piece through the middle, hard touch on the upper part and all through most of the bottom section, but you do have quite a bit of door storage. Now, walking up to the tailgate area of the Equinox, I do want to point out you have a power tailgate with the AutoSense feature, and that's going to be standard on both Active and RS trim levels, optional on the LT. And the new thing about it this year is that when you walk up to the vehicle, it's going to beep a couple times and pop open, similar to what we've seen on some Hyundai Kia products for the last little bit. So that's a new thing that they're adding instead of the kick ability. Now, as far as the space is concerned, let's talk about that. I know you're curious. About 30 40 cubic feet of space behind the second row of seats is what you're going to be sitting at for this new Equinox. If we reach up and fold those seats down, we're looking at 63.5 cubic feet. So pretty good space figures for this segment. And I say pretty good because it is still going to be less than a lot of your main rivals. RAV4 is going to be sitting at 69 cubic feet, CRV around 76. So you're 10 to 15 cubic feet less than the leading rivals. However, I think most people are going to be perfectly fine with this amount of space. Now, additionally, I want to point out you have a lot of space up underneath of the floor, so this actually goes back a very good distance, so you can hide a lot of things under the floor itself. If I lift this up, you will also find a spare tire, which is something some of the rivals don't include. In order to fold the seats, though, there are not any handles, so I'll have to go up there and do it manually. After doing that, you will see that the seats do fold 60-40 split. And what am I doing with this tape measure? Well, I'm getting our cargo length, width, and height figures in case you're looking to haul something specifically. From behind Drew's driving position, we are looking at exactly 6 feet or 72 inches of overall length. From behind the second row, it's going to be exactly 3 feet, so half of your distance from the full driving position. As far as overall width, 40 inches wide, which is pretty good, and then height is coming in at 29 inches. So those are your cargo dimensions for this new Equinox. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the all-new Equinox. Now, of course, we're excited to show you all of what it's like behind the wheel. We'll be discussing the things that you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our signature sound level reading. But first, we want to go ahead and start with a hard acceleration.
That was 60 miles per hour. We were going a little bit up an incline, but not too big of an incline with this Equinox. Now, of course, like we were just talking about, to recap, this is a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It makes 175 horsepower, which is the same as the outgoing generation. There is two different torque figures, depending on if you go with all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive. We have a little over 200 pound-feet of torque with this all-wheel drive version.
Yeah, which is going to represent a pretty decent increase. It's 184 pound-feet of torque if you choose the front-wheel drive model, so do keep that in mind depending on which version you're selecting.
Now, in terms of how acceleration is, especially compared to the competition, it is decent. Now, this is going to be slower. You probably, if you're familiar with the segment, realize that 175 horsepower is a little bit lower than most of the main rivals. CRV in its regular gas form is going to be about 190. RAV4 is a little over 200 horsepower.
Yeah.
So you're going to be down maybe 25 horsepower to some of the main competition. That being said, that probably shouldn't be a deal breaker necessarily to you. Make sure you just get behind the wheel and check it out for yourself. But it's not terrible, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think especially here with the all-wheel drive version, that's what we're in today, by the way, with the 203 pound-feet of torque, I think it feels reasonably quick. It's not going to be like, ooh, wow, that's super fast or whatnot. But for this segment of vehicle, I think it feels perfectly fine. Now, one thing I am a little bit disappointed by, for sure, is the fact that this all-new Equinox is not offering a hybrid variant. As you probably know, a lot in this segment are including hybrid offerings. Really, actually, the vast majority of things in the segment have hybrids or are actually locking you into a hybrid in certain trim levels. And the hybrid system is going to give you more power and also boost your fuel economy. We'll talk about the fuel economy a little bit later, but I really would have liked Chevy to have at least added a hybrid option for this new model.
Right, and of course, it is worth mentioning they do have the Equinox EV. It's actually completely unrelated to this in terms of like the chassis, the overall vehicle itself is really completely different, but it is an electric alternative to this model. Alright, now let's talk about the other aspect of the powertrain. This is another interesting element because you actually have two different transmission options. If you pick the front-wheel drive model, that's going to give you a continuously variable transmission. Now, as Mason was discussing, we've got the all-wheel drive version, and as you could tell, with our shifts, we have a traditional automatic. Yep. This is an 8-speed automatic. So, obviously, if you're a person that prefers a more traditional experience, you're going to want to choose the all-wheel drive version because that is going to give you that traditional automatic. Also, most of the competition really has continuously variable transmissions across the whole lineup, so that is a good distinguishing characteristic.
And what is your fuel economy for both of those versions? Well, you're going to have a decent fuel economy for both of them. Front-wheel drive comes in at 27 mpg combined. All-wheel drive comes in at 26. Now, the thing I want to point out about that is it is actually a couple mpg behind what you're going to get in the full gas versions of some of the competition like RAV4 and CRV. They're going to get better fuel economy in those versions, and that's not, factoring in the fact that they have hybrids that get way better fuel economy than this as well. So do keep that in mind. It will cost you a little bit more at the pump, that's for sure. And it's time for us to get our signature sound level reading going 55 miles per hour in this Equinox. So let's go ahead and get that. I'm going to put it on fan speed 1. Let me double check and make sure that it's actually on fan speed 1 with the climate menu here. Okay, fan speed 1. 58.3 decibels is what we're sitting at as our official Car Confections sound level reading. Now, I say official lightly because we are on the media drive for this Equinox, and we're not in our home state of Kentucky. We're actually in Minnesota right now. This road surface does appear to be a little bit rougher than what we typically expect at home, but we don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to some of the competition. We can actually go to carconfections.com/sound level readings, and on our website we posted all of the readings that we've gotten on our channel. Now, that sound level reading would place this Equinox at one of the louder options in the segment, but like I mentioned, not in our home state of Kentucky. I also do want to point out that since we're in the active version of this Equinox, we have all-terrain tires, and Drew and I noted specifically for this version, I feel that I hear a little bit of tire noise, that's for sure. So other versions of the Equinox would probably have a little bit of a quieter cabin.
Yeah, there's definitely some overall hum to it, although as far as feel is concerned, you don't really feel any types of bumpiness or anything to those all-terrain tires.
Yeah, and speaking of how it feels, let's talk about ride quality. That's something that Drew and I have both been impressed with the entire morning that we've been with this new Equinox, is just how well it rides. I think this is a very solid riding product in all trim levels, but especially here with the Active, it does a fantastic job of just soaking up any bump that you hit in the road. It just really feels quality when you hit a bump. You might see this demonstrated here by the storm drain. There you go, right there. Thanks for hitting the storm drain.
Aiming for it.
But yeah, I think it just really rides very nicely, which is important for this segment of vehicle. The seats I do find to be a little bit more on the firm side, so do keep that in mind.
Now, as far as your dynamics are concerned, we've gone around a few corners. This is not designed to be sporty, so that's the first thing I want to say. Most things in this segment are not. As a matter of fact, we notice you don't even have a sport drive mode or anything like that. You just have snow and off-road drive modes. In terms of the overall performance, certainly not bad. It's really in line with most of the competition. Steering is going to be lightweight. It does have a good response to it off-center. It's overall pretty predictable. We do have a little bit of body roll as well, but overall pretty controlled. So there's our auto start stop system working. Overall, that's very nice and smooth as well.
And now let's get into our slam dunk and airball, our favorite and least favorite element about this Equinox. Drew, why don't you kick us off with the slam dunk?
So for the slam dunk, we are going with value. That really is for the whole Equinox lineup, especially if you're looking on some of the lower trim levels like the LT. There's a lot of really appealing equipment that you get as standard, like heated seats, heated steering wheel. You also have some pretty inexpensive options you can add that give you a quite premium feel for about $35,000.
Yeah, I think definitely more so than the competition. You will notice you're getting more for the money. Now, on the airball side of things, I'm not going to elaborate too much more on this, but I am missing the fact that there should be a hybrid offering. I really think that would elevate this to the next level if you were able to have a hybrid that gets 35 to 40 miles per gallon combined. I think a lot of families are looking for that. As far as the last things worth noting, you do have Chevy's signature warranty, which is a 3-year 36 basic, a 5-year 60,000 mile powertrain. You do also get 1 complimentary service visit. Now let's talk pricing for the Equinox. Now I'm happy to tell you that this active trim level, even though it's the highest in trim level, you can get, still starts at $33,000 with the front wheel drive option. Now you kind of just pick between this and the RS as your highest models because that also costs $33,000. The LT is going to be $28,600. Keep in mind those are with front wheel drive. If you want all wheel drive, that's an additional $2,000. And then we also have some option packages on this model, but we're still sitting at around $40,000 fully loaded up. Now, if you're looking to buy a Chevy Equinox or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. Now, the reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description, and we also have a pinned comment at the top of this video. Now let's talk about potential resale value and reliability to make sure you are making a smart purchase. Now, first up, we'll talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, Drew and I took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Chevy Equinox's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 54.7% of its original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 20.4%. Now, it's worth noting that that is less than some of the Japanese rivals, such as Toyota and Honda and Subaru, but it is going to be very much on par with other mainstream brands.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several studies from trustworthy sources and combines them to paint a more holistic picture of the brand. In this respect, Chevy is one of our highest rated brands, coming at the number 2 slot for most reliable brands.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our reliability and resale data, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a car is a big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. Guys, that's going to be where we leave off on this in-depth review of the 2025 Chevy Equinox and its new active trim level. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, not only are you going to be a part of our Car Confections family, which is a lot of fun, by the way, you will also be notified on the latest car reviews such as this. So do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button down below. If you're already part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. You make this all possible, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.